All right, so I'm gonna start a series. This is gonna be a new series that I start. Hopefully, I can find enough info to keep the series going. This is gonna be called this is gonna be called When Racism Attacks. Now, let me explain. Russell Brand. I don't know too much about Russell Brand. He was this comedian that I never thought was that funny, but he went on to be this guy who would talk about issues, serious issues, and he would kind of talk from the people's side. I listened to him a few times. It was difficult for me to really listen to him, but the few times that I did listen to him, he did have relevant stuff to say. He was competent. And he fought back against the establishment. So it's, whenever somebody does that, I have some sort of measure of respect for that person. So I have nothing against Russell Brand. I've listened to him a few times. If something very interesting came up, because he was kind of hard to follow, so I stopped listening to him. But if something really relevant came up and he talked about it, I would definitely give it a listen. And he's never done, from what I know, done or said anything that would make me dislike him. So this is nothing about him. This is just the situation that he's going through and that he's involved in. Also, based on what the title of the channel or the title of the video, I don't think Russell Brand is a racist. I have no reason to think that. So again, it's not an attack on Russell Brand. But this video I had to make because this is a common thing. White people allow racism and their jealousy of black people to blind them or to cause them to ignore certain things, to allow certain things to happen if it's happening to a black person or maybe a non-white person. And they'll sit there and even though they know it's wrong and it's demonic and it's immoral and it's illegal in most cases, they'll sit there and they'll side against the black person. They'll push the narrative that the black person should be punished, even though they know that that it's all a shit show and a joke, or they will just ignore it and they'll keep their mouths shut. Sorry, it's early in the morning. And most of that is due to racism and jealousy. There's a jealousy that causes the racism, and so as a result, they'll see certain things happening to black people and they'll just ignore it, or they'll go along and try to help punish the black person, even though they know the black person isn't in the wrong. Then when it turns around and that precedent is set and it is directed at white people or at the people that white people like, then white people are surprised. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. This is wrong. We need to do something. It's too late now. You set the precedent. You let your pathetic jealousy and your racism push the standard to a point where now they can come after you if they want. Dumbass. And again, this isn't about Russell Brand. I don't think Russell Brand has ever done anything. This is directed at white society in general. So Russell Brand, as I've talked about in not all, but the vast majority of my videos, the wealthy white men and women are actively sabotaging everyone else because wealthy white people need the masses to be poor so that they can be underneath them. Because as I always say, if everyone is rich, then no one is rich. So the people that are already in power, they can't have everyone else being empowered, because then you lose all your servants, your workers, your voters, all the people that you need to be underneath you to help prop you up. You can't be propped up to the top if there's no one underneath you. You need people underneath you. So wealthy white people have been doing this for centuries at this point. They've been working to destabilize, sabotage, and destroy the lives of people around the globe, including white people. That's why places like Australia exist. That's why places like North America exist, because white people are constantly having to run away from their wealthy brothers and sisters, because the wealthy whites just do like sick demonic shit to each other in order to stay in a position of power. So white people have fled from other whites and have set up other countries. So many of them have fled, that they've set up other countries. That's why those countries exist, because whites were fleeing from other whites and trying to make a life more bearable for themselves, because life under the wealthy whites was just horrific. And so wealthy whites have been doing this for centuries, and I've been fighting against it, trying to fight against it, trying to get people's attention, letting people know that if you want this to stop, you got to stop supporting these people financially. Pull your money, and hurt them by taking away the finances that they use to do all this stuff that they're doing. But of course, nobody listens to me. Also, YouTube is part of Google. They're wealthy, so that's a wealthy company. So they sabotage me as well, and they shadow ban me and all that stuff. So people don't even see it. But I've been fighting against these wealthy white people for a long time, and I'm black, so I work to try to get black people to pay attention to it. And there are videos where I talk to everybody and say, look, everybody, you got to pay attention. This is how we get some change. Russell Brand has been doing something similar. He's been fighting against the establishment, trying to work to help the white masses, the masses of everybody around the world, but also the white masses, trying to let them know that this is what the establishment is doing. This is how we should fight against it. This is bad. And he's been a voice for those people for a long time now. And of course, when you're wealthy and white and you want to control the masses, well, you need to shut up any dissenting voices. Anyone that's going against you or your narrative or what you're pushing, you need to find a way to shut them up. And that's bad for the masses, because you need to have voices out there. You need to have people out there advocating for you and fighting for you, because the politicians that you put in place, they work for the wealthy. So really, only the wealthy have representation. They're the only ones able to do the things that they want and get the things that they want done at your expense. So you need a voice. You don't want the wealthy taking away your voices, but that's what the wealthy do, because they need to stay in power. They don't want everybody else to have power, because if everyone is rich, then no one is. So the reason I'm laughing at this whole situation is, you had an incident where Bill Cosby was thrown into the spotlight because a bunch of old whores came out and said, you know what, in the 60s and 70s, we did what everybody did back then. We took drugs and fucked for fun. We would go to parties, then we would take drugs, we would drink, get high, and fuck. That's what we did for fun. That's what society did for fun, especially the rich and the wealthy and the powerful and the famous. So these women did what women and men have been doing back then on a regular basis. Going out to parties or hanging out with celebrities, taking drugs, and then fucking. Because the men want to fuck, and the vast majority of the poor women who are there to have sex with these rich men because they're trying to get something out of it, it's hard to explain, but I'm going to try. In order for those women to be able to stomach basically being a whore that night, because again, most of these women, if not all of them, have sex with these celebrities because they're trying to get something out of it. Men do it too. You have male whores as well. They will have sex with these people to get money, or to get a position of power, or to get access to something, whether it be a job in Hollywood or in the industry or whatever. They know that if I cozy up to this person, I more than likely will get access. So you had these whores out there who would go out and have intercourse with these celebrities, but they felt bad about it. So in order to stomach the act that they were about to engage in, they would take drugs. Women have done it for a long time. You'll see a straight-laced woman in the office at your job. She don't look at men, talk to men, nothing. But if you happen to be in a club that she's in on Friday night, you see a different person. Bitch is giving lap dances. She's kissing random men. She's going home with random men. She'll be fucking them in the bathroom and shit. Like this crazy outlandish stuff that you wouldn't think she would do. It's because she's trying to unwind, and she's trying to have what she's been told is fun. But in order to do that, she will first drink heavily to kind of inebriate herself. And it's for two reasons. One of the main reasons is I don't want to know what I'm doing, because I am going to engage in an act that I normally find repulsive, Or I want to appear to be inebriated so that when I'm doing all this crazy sick shit, the next day when people that know me look at me and say, "Wow, why were you doing all that?" I can just lie and be like, "I was drunk. I didn't know that I was sucking dick in the bathroom." So they do it for a whole host of reasons. But in Hollywood and stuff like that, you'd have these women who were trying to cozy up to celebrities, and so they would become inebriated, and that meant drinking and getting high.
The hotel industry is a wild experience that helps you understand how disconnected the wildly wealthy are. I've seen the darker side of humanity: suicides, murders, spousal abuse, human trafficking. That shit stays with you for a long time. One weekend, a large group of around 60-ish people, they wanted to purchase out the entire hotel so they could just turn it into a giant orgy. They left a nightmare room. Blood, feces, semen stains. One of my bellboys came up and was like, "I've got a black light, I'm curious." He turned it on, and I remember we looked down and saw all the stains. We looked to the sides and saw them on the wall. At one point in the bathroom, we looked up and saw them all in the ceiling, and we were just like, how?
So they would go with Bill Cosby. They would drink, they would do drugs, get high, fuck, go about their business and hope that, hopefully this guy gives me an opportunity, something. And in most cases, like with every celebrity, that doesn't pan out. You were just a hole for me to fuck that night. Thank you. I'm glad we were able to have fun, but I don't have anything to offer you or give you. Sorry. Bye. So then you had all these whores being brought back decades later and saying, well, he drugged me and raped me. I was high and he raped me while I was high. Bill Cosby's like, no, I didn't do that. I provided some drugs for her, like every celebrity does. She wanted some of the popular drug at the time. I have the money, and this is how we partied back then. So yeah, I supplied her with some drugs. She took the drugs, and we had sex. That's what we did. And they were like, oh, you see, he said that he drugged her. He said it when he didn't say it. You had another woman, I think Andrea Constant. This was another whore. She went over to Bill Cosby's house. Bill Cosby's a married man. She went over to a married man's house at night. And I'm not saying Bill Cosby's a great person, but a criminal, that's two different things. So she went over to a married man's house. The guy's married. She winds up eating dinner with him late at night. Then she spends the night at his house. I'm assuming they had intercourse. And then the next day, they went about their business. No, wait, let me take that back. I don't know if they had sex. I think, according to the story, she said she was feeling pain. She was in some pain. She asked him for some meds. He gave her some meds. And according to her, she woke up and I guess her vaginal area felt sore or something. She knew she had intercourse, so she realized she had been raped or something like that. Instead of going to the police, filing a police report, I think she just went back home, right? Or went about her business. And then several months later, this man who she had a night with, she invited out to, I think it was a basketball game with her parents, so they could all meet and hang out and have fun. Now, what woman that has been violently raped by a pervert and an animal and a predator would invite her parents to spend the night out with him at a nice basketball game and have some dinner? None of that stuff is brought up. Everyone ignores all that. They just use these women to pull this guy into court to destroy whatever business moves he was trying to make, to harm him and to destroy his image and his legacy. And they were successful because white society went along with it. They either sided with the accusers and knowing that this was all BS, or they just kept their mouth shut and watched because they wanted this black guy to be destroyed. And that set a precedent. Dummies. Now, whenever the wealthy want to lie and destroy somebody who they don't like, they're just going to do what they did to Bill Cosby. That's what you've seen happen to all these other people. That's what you're seeing happen to Russell Brand right now. Russell Brand dared to go against the establishment. Guess what, buddy? We already have a system in place where we can just lie, pay our news organizations, pay our politicians, pay our regulatory agencies, pay all of these people because they all work for the wealthy, the politicians included. We can just pay them to just create scenarios and create new rules or create new policies that are going to destroy you and take away your voice, take away your ability to fight for the little guy. We're going to take that away from you because we have the system in place, and we have the system in place because the the dominant society, the masses within the country, white people, they went along with it. They knew what we were doing, but because we know that white society is racist and jealous of blacks, well, we used a black person to implement the system, with knowing that white people would allow it and would go along with it. Once we set that precedent, now we can use that precedent to destroy the same white people who work to help support the lynching of this black celebrity. So now this guy, Russell Brand, this white male who's been doing his part to try to fight back against the establishment. He gave up access to Hollywood. He gave up sacrificed all that stuff to try to fight to help all of us, including white society, from this constant attack by wealthy whites. Now his voice has been taken away. You just lost an ally and you lost a system of support because you allowed that precedent to be set because of racism. You allowed your racism to put something in effect that has been used to hurt you. That's what white society has done for a long time. Wealthy white men and women have realized a long time ago that if we want to stay in control, we need to divide and conquer and pit the other whites against someone other than us, because we are the ones attacking rich and middle class and working class and poor whites. We're the ones that are constantly attacking them. But we don't want them to rally and come after us. So we need to give them another group to focus on, and we'll give them the niggers to focus on. And that's what they've done. So blacks and whites are constantly fighting against each other. And the blacks don't have the time, the resources, or the ability to focus their attacks on the wealthy whites who are the real problem. And the poorer whites, they're not even focused on the wealthy whites. They're focused on hating black people. So we're fighting against each other. And wealthy whites have used that to destroy and destabilize everybody because nobody's really focusing on the wealthy whites. One of the great examples I like to give is the opioid crisis, which eventually fed over into the fentanyl crisis, which we have now. That was started by a wealthy white family, a white Jewish family. That family has never gone to jail. They've never been punished, targeted. White society isn't going after them or their children or their estate or nothing. Most of them don't even know the fucking name of the family, of the wealthy white Jewish family that has destroyed their communities and their lives, because they're so busy focused on hating non-white people and hating others that they don't pay attention to what's going on behind them. And the other groups don't have time to focus on the real enemy either, because they're defending themselves from these unprovoked assaults from white society. So we're constantly going back and forth and ignoring the stuff that's the actual criminals, and the actual criminals are going to target all of us, including white society. And so that's what you have now. You have allowed wealthy whites to set up this precedent where if they want to attack someone in a position of power, they can do whatever they like, because now this precedent has been set where if I pay a woman or a man to lie about something, they lie, and all I have to do is now use my money to push the lie. I don't have to prove shit. All I have to do is put the accusation out there, and I win. That person has now been destroyed. And that's what you're seeing happening right now. That's why people like Amber Heard, they don't get destroyed when you find out that they were a lying cunt. That doesn't happen because the system that's been put in place is not there to be fair and equal. It's just there to go after whoever the wealthy whites want to go after. So they weren't going to use the media and the justice system to punish Amber Heard and to make her into a pariah and to destroy her, because that's not the goal here. So that's why you didn't see that happen. The goal is, if whoever we want to destroy, we need to be able to hire a liar and just have them go along with whatever story we've created, and then we'll push that lie. And we'll use that lie to spread propaganda which will destroy that person. And more often than not, it's being destroyed. It's being used to destroy men, and now you're seeing it used on Russell Brand. So now this voice that people have had, now they're going to go after him. Now I don't know if Russell Brand is a rapist or not, or if all this stuff is true. I don't know that, but I do know that this is a pattern that whenever somebody becomes powerful enough to do something wealthy whites don't want, and they want to stop that person, all they have to do is say, yeah, this guy was a pervert at some point in his life, and this woman says he raped her anally. So let's believe her. Believe all women. That's a pattern. And so I'm looking at that pattern and I'm making an assumption that more than likely this is just being used to destroy this guy. Because again, I don't know. But that's a pattern that you see here, and that pattern, it works now because white society has allowed this precedent to be set. I mean, you've had stories like this in the past. People like Roman Polanski having sex with children, Stephen Collins having sex with children. Nobody goes after these people. The media, for some reason, doesn't push those stories because they didn't need to do that at the time. They needed to go after certain people. When did it start happening? About 10 years ago? And so they set this process in motion. White society went along with it because it was being publicly directed at a black celebrity. And so white society said, yeah, well, we don't like black people, so we want to go along with this. And they did. And now that precedent exists. So now you've allowed racism to set something in motion that is now going to destroy any person that tries to help white society. If a white person comes out and they try to destroy or try to help the middle class whites and the poor whites and the working class whites, well, now you have these things put in place now that can just shut those people up and get rid of them. You guys have destroyed your own voices because of racism. So that's my video for the day. I hope we find out what actually happened with Russell Brand. I mean, it's kind of done at this point. I believe he's kind of done. Hopefully he has the if he really wanted to help people, hopefully he forgets this monetization thing and just keeps talking. I mean, my channel is irrelevant and it's small. Because of stuff that I say, YouTube has worked to keep me from getting to a position where I can be monetized long ago. I started this channel in 2016 and 2017. And I still make these videos because fuck it. I'm trying to do my part to help people. I know I'm not going to get paid for it, but you got to do what you got to do. If you're a decent person, try. Try. And hopefully Russell Brand is the same way. He doesn't care about the monetization. He just keeps pushing and keeps trying to be that voice. But we'll see. Good luck.